Right, back to our topic this morning on This is a Point. We're discussing, of course, the looming referendum. And on Thursday as well, there will be a bill in Parliament where MPs are seeking to extend, of course, or to change actually the election date all month from August to December. President Uhuru Kenyatta could stay in office for at least 4 more months at the end of his second term and final term in 2022 if a bill that I'm talking about to switch the election date from August to December sails through Parliament on Wednesday. If Bill Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2018, a brainchild of the Kiminini Member of Parliament Chris Wamalwa, garners the 233 votes, which is a 2/3 threshold to make it law, it will be subjected to a referendum. The MPs are expected to vote either electronically or through a roll call on Wednesday. On the Wamalwa bill that seeks to change the election date from the second Tuesday of August every 5th year to the third Monday of December every election year. The president will, however, have the last say as to whether the country should go through a referendum or not, a situation that is likely to kick in campaigns in an environment that is already poisoned by the disparate plebiscite interest and the 2022 succession debate. That is what we are focusing on this morning. And also for the rest of that particular story, also you can grab a copy of the People Daily this morning. We have our guest this morning. I introduced to you earlier Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who is the governor of Kisumu. Also, we do have with us Jeremiah Kioni. Jeremiah Kioni is a member of parliament from Daragwa and also the chair of CRC. Also, we do have with us former Senator of Murang'a. This is Ambassador Kembi Gitura. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Right, looking at the front page of The Star, I don't have the hard copy, but majority opposed to referendum call. Poll, it says, not a priority. Those below 35 years lead in opposing calls for constitutional changes. 63.2% in NASA and 54.9% in Jubilee are against the proposed changes. And you have this story on page 4 and 5 of The Star today. But also just reading what we're talking about, changing the election date and month from August to December. It seems we don't really have a choice if the MPs will sail through this particular bill. Either way, there will be a referendum because that call for election change on the month or the date, it really calls for the Constitution, for a referendum, I should say, according to the Constitution. Professor Anyang' Nyong'o.
Thank you very much, Debal. Good morning, colleagues. My preference would be that Parliament should hold its horses and wait for a more comprehensive review of the Constitution. This piecemeal proposal to change this, to change that,
yes,
really does not help. I think that we need to respect a national debate that is emerging so that we see the pros and cons of what we need to change comprehensively. I myself would discourage Parliament for proposing changes here and there when we are looking at the Constitution as a whole. December has a problem, because December is a holiday season.
Yes.
I think that we should respect also family life. Most people during the rest of the year are working like ourselves. When it comes to December, first of all, there's Jamhuri Day on the 12th.
Yes.
And then there's Christmas and Boxing Day, 24th, 25th. And most employers really tend to give their employees holidays in December
yes.
to go home. And I have always found it extremely disconcerting to have those elections on December 29th because it completely wipes out Christmas.
Yes.
Wipes out Jamhuri Day. I mean, December you are busy campaigning. I don't think it's healthy. I think we should have elections in a month when there are no other holidays, independent of the end of the year. And then you see, from Christmas, then you go to New Year on the 1st. And usually, if you have on the 29th, then the whole counting continues on the 1st. People never even know that the new year started. So I really think that it's not a good thing at all. I don't know why some people think it's better to hold elections in December rather than in August. I really don't see the logic myself. Yeah. But my preference would be, let's not propose changes in piecemeal. Let us discuss the Constitution as a whole. Let's see how the various articles hang together. Let's see the logic of what we do, and not just rush to, to play to the galleries that I've also proposed an amendment to the Constitution. Yep.
But it seems we only have a Hobson choice right now, since now the debate also is on the floor, and with regard to referendum changes. But now this one, if it sails through the House and we have the MPs really supporting it right now, he says he's got around 215 MPs already supporting it. I don't know, Jeremiah Kioni, you're the one, if you are one of them that are supporting this particular bill of Mr. Wamalwa.
Thank you, Libaro, and again, morning to all. I am aware of this bill. I know it was it went through second reading last week, and it's coming for a vote on Wednesday, and we will see how the vote goes. But I think there are a couple of issues that we need to bring out, and Governor has mentioned them. I think one of the other reasons, on top of what my good governor has said, is that one of the other reasons why we settled for August during the Navajo debate was because Christians felt that December was a Christian month, is a Christmas month, very crucial for the birth of Christ and the foundation of Christianity. And there was arguments that, which I supported, is that we disrupt this month and this very crucial time for Christians. And there was an argument, maybe it may not be very, very useful now, but it still informs this debate. Try and have elections on a Friday. The Muslims will tell you, no, please. Try and have it on a Saturday. The seventh day will say, you can carry on, you have the numbers, but you will not be part of it. And the question is, why is it that when you talk of Christmas period, because whether you like it or not, elections in December will affect that Christmas period. And two, it affects the family month. I agree totally with what Professor has said. It is a month that people use to relax and family reunion and the rest. So that debate is there. But on top of that, there is also the issue of that changing the elections date, without doubt, increases the term of the president, the term of members of parliament, and the rest. And Article 255 of the Constitution clearly says that if you ever want to increase the term of the president, you will need to go for a referendum. It is the president who on receiving the bill, will, of course, decide whether he would want to set the bill for referendum or whether he would want to assent to it. And if he does, I expect court battles. I expect somebody to go to court and say it's unconstitutional, it's against the provisions of Article 255. We have increased the term of president without having asked the public through a referendum. So I see it as really an exercise that could be an exercise in futility at the end of it. And I know this was again tried during 11th Parliament. And one wonders how it benefits the majority of Kenyans. And I think there are quite a number of other issues that needs to be addressed in the Constitution that would be beneficial to us as a country. Of course, that doesn't mean that what Chris is suggesting in his own wisdom and in his thoughts is not beneficial, and he needs to convince many more. If he has 215, he's doing very well. I don't know if he gets to 33, that would be very good, but I still want to think it's an exercise in futility.
You think it's an exercise in futility? Kemi Gitura, Balozi?
Well, Honorable Kioni is now in Parliament. I'm not, so he must know what he's talking about. He must know the
And of course, the low-hanging fruit being that, yes, now they'll have an extension also of their terms as well in Parliament.
That will give us the numbers.
That will give you the numbers.
Well, they need 233.
Yes.
In both, in the National Assembly, and there are 2/3 also in the Senate. Or this is going to go through both houses.
Yes.
Not just one house. And that will be difficult because by reasons raised by both Professor Anyang' Nyong'o and by Honorable Kioni, there must have been a reason why August was seen as the correct month for the elections. And it is not just about the month, it's also about the days, like has been said, because people have interest in these days. Yeah, religious people have interest in the days as well. So I don't think it's going to be easy, but the beauty of it is that it's going to be debated in Parliament. It's going to open up the debate, because this debate about referendum, you know, people are trying to hide from the fact that it's going to be there.
Yes.
But the debate on referendum is already there. And it's the sooner people accept that debate is there, the better. Because Dr. Ekuru Aukot himself is collecting signatures. I heard him last night saying he has crossed over 600,000 signatures. He needs 1 million signatures. Once he gets these signatures, and once they are verified by IEBC, whether anybody likes it or not, he is going to force a referendum by popular initiative, because that's what the Constitution says. So the debate on the Constitution amendment on a referendum is rife. It is coming out now, and the Dr. Wamalwa bill is there. We cannot wish it away. The beauty about it is that it's going to generate debate. And once it is read for the first time in the House, I don't know whether it's been read.
It's gone through the second reading.
But the second reading cannot be done within 90 days after the first reading. That's what the Constitution says, so that there is enough time for public participation, so people can discuss this thing. So it's going to go to the people. By dint of the public participation, it will go to the people. For 90 days, it's going to be discussed out there in public, and then it's going to come back with recommendations from the relevant committee of Parliament, of National Assembly first, because that's where the bill is emanating from. And then they're going to now read it for the second time, and it's going to be debated in the National Assembly. So it's good to accept that now the debate is on. The issue raised by Professor Anyang' Nyong'o is very important about piecemeal amendments of the Constitution. I was thinking that Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who is working on this popular initiative, would by now maybe have given us a draft bill, something that we know the question that is going to be asked in his referendum, because we need to know what the question is. And it is not going to be one question. There are very many questions that I'm sure are going to be asked, because 8 years later, people have seen how this Constitution has worked, whether it has worked for them or not, and they want to see what needs to be looked at again. So we have to know also what the question is going to be, what the questions are going to be in the proposed amendments. Because once it goes to public participation, we may find that, in fact, there are very many things that the Kenyan citizenry would like to be addressed in the proposed amendments or amendments to the Constitution through a referendum.
Yeah. Right. But let's take a short break, then we'll circle back with you, Professor. Welcome back. You're watching This is The Point here on AM Live. We continue with the conversation with the panelists. I'm holding court this morning with Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who is the governor of Kisumu. Also, we do have with us Jeremiah Kioni, who is a member of parliament from Ndaragwa. We do have with us as well Ambassador Kembi Gitura, who is a former senator of Muranga. Before we took a short break, we promised to circle back with Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. Hope you've...
Yeah, I just want to emphasize the bar that what Jeremiah is saying is extremely important.
Yes.
When he says that Wamalwa's bill actually is a constitutional issue, because Article 255 says a proposed amendment to this Constitution shall be enacted in accordance with Article 256 or 257 and approved in accordance with Clause 2 by a referendum, if the amendment relates to any of the following matters. And one of the matters is the term of the office of the President. So it is quite clear that if Parliament approves the bill, it will have to go for a referendum. There's no other way. So that's what I'm saying. Rather than Wamalwa rushing with this particular issue and calling for a referendum, let us discuss the Constitution as a whole and see how many issues we want to raise that should go for a referendum and consolidate them. That's why in a few weeks later, when I wrote that article, the debate on the Constitution should be structured.
Yes.
Yeah.
The best thing is to have a committee like last time we had a group of experts or something like that, which receives proposals, consolidate them, and then take them to Parliament for debate so that a referendum bill can be framed, rather than each one of us trying to be a hero by proposing this amendment, that amendment, that amendment. The process would be rather untidy, and is untidy already. The other thing I was going to say is that, look, these polls that you see here, majority opposed to referendum call, look, it is very unclear at this point in time what the call is. People are calling for a referendum, but we have known one, the Wamalwa proposal about election date. There are many others. So this poll was taken a little bit prematurely, I think. So it cannot really tell us what the people are going to say once they know the kind of questions crystallized. That is, for example, there's an issue of how many counties we want.
Yes.
There's an issue of the structure of the executive, whether we want a parliamentary or a pure presidential system or a parliamentary system. There's the issue of
The size of representation.
the size of representation, both at the national level and at the county level. You know, some people think that there are too many MCAs with too many parks, making it difficult for counties even to deliver on development, you see. And I think it is important to look at these things dispassionately. Finally, the thing I want to say, look, I really think that Kenya has taken for a ride when people frame the question of a referendum. It's a question of the big three. President Kenyatta, Deputy President Ruto, and Raila Amolo Odinga. No, there are many voices calling for a referendum who don't phrase it that way, who phrase it in terms of issues. Yes, these people, the three people, are very prominent in our society, and what they say is listened to by many people. But the call for a referendum and the issues being raised are independent of what they stand for. And if you say the referendum stays or falls depending on what happens to those three, I think it's unfair to Kenyans. It's unfair to Kenyans. Let us give everybody a space and take the opinions or the preferences of those three, just one of those preferences of leaders in Kenya, but there are many other people that are expressing opinions about referendum, very genuine. And if you read the papers, you'll see it. If you read the article by Yash, Guy, and his wife, substantive issues are being raised. So let's give space to what the referendum is about and just boil it down just to three people.
Right. Jeremiah Kioni, on that bit, then it seems, yes, if it sails through on Wednesday, of which there's a likelihood that it will sail through, and the Speaker has also not really shown so much leadership on that particular front as well, as far to give the clarity whether we need a referendum or not. What will be your points in terms of the Speaker really sitting on the fence as well?
No, the Speaker has given clarity by saying that he leaves it to the President to decide whether it is a referendum issue or not. So in his mind it's clear that it's at the next stage that is determined. We may have different views, like perhaps saying we think that it should have been determined earlier. But he's given that direction, and that's why he has allowed the debate to continue in Parliament. And I think it's good to point out that public participation has taken place, because through the Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs in Parliament, there was public hearings. I know that they went around the country, the committee or a section of the committee, a subcommittee of the committee, went around the country seeking people's view, and it appears like they came back and said that people have supported the initiative. And I think it is, but you see, one of the things that we sought to do, or everybody who was involved in this constitution making process before 2010, was to write the constitution in such a language that you can read it and understand it. If you read that Article 255, there's nothing legal about the wordings. It's ordinary English. You just read and it will tell you a little bit of being in class and English. It tells you what you're likely to go through. So that's why I'm saying, even when it passes, you expect somebody to just go to court and a quick decision will be taken, good effort, but referendum required. And if that be the case, and we have other issues that we need also put for referendum, I think it is important that this debate be taken to the next level, where we now talk about what are the issues that we want debated. And even before moving that, I have an issue also with our court, and I think him having been in this process, he already must have gone through this. I don't think you can go asking for my signature for something I don't know. You must tell me the question that you want me to sign on to. So he's not supposed to come up with the questions after having gotten the 1 million signatures. He should have come with the questions before getting a single signature. Because I don't know, I can't sign a blank check. If it's established in court or before perhaps even before the IEBC, that signatures were obtained before people knew why they were signing on to them, then again, that could be a hurdle. But I want to come to where Professor said that we want this thing in a structured way. And the Constitution has provided for those structures. And it is upon us now to quickly perhaps give readership and provide a forum, and this must come from Parliament, provide a forum where can we deposit the many ideas that we want amended. My question on this is that if we again take 2 million on board, we are likely to lose good initiative because of some aspects that people may not agree. If you, for example, say that I want to reduce the number of counties, and also you come and say, I want to reduce the number of representation. You know, we have more consensus around the issues of representation across the country. But reducing the counties requires a little bit more of persuasion. It may not happen right away. Those are my views. We seem to be getting a consensus on the parliamentary system of governance. It seems to be picking momentum. But if you come and tell me, do away with my constituency at this time,
yes.
You may get some people who say, no, if I'm losing my constituency, I do not want this.
Thing, yes.
So we need to really bring out, there are those issues that really would help the country make a leap forward, and quick one. And then certainly this process of amending the constitution will be not a one-off thing. It's a thing that we are going to have over a period of time. And we need to agree on the timing, the stages, what is it that we need, what are the issues that seems to have been agreed upon now, and that can help us move to the next. So that if it's tidying up on the constitution, we continue doing it. But there is other thing that I think would help us a lot. If we talk about representation, and we want to reduce the number of members of parliament, or even the position of women led, those who say they don't want the Senate and those kind of things. Don't amend it like we did it 2010. Do not amend the constitution to take me home. I want to take part in the improving of our constitution, but let it affect those who come. Don't make me jobless. So no politician is going to sign off and say, I have now said this position is gone tomorrow. But if you say 2027, 2032, we will all sign on it because you think by that time you'll have earned your money and gone home, or organized yourself and gone home. So the tactics, we must approach it very, very tactfully. And I want to agree totally with the professor again. It cannot be that it is the president, the deputy, and the prime minister who seem to be told to be the only one who wants this referendum. I think the referendum issue, the need to amend the constitution has been there even before this now coming on board of our 3 readers. And we need to really harness and harvest what Kenyans have been saying about this constitution. And without doubt, we will, if we allow ourselves to do that, will be the better. You talk of that 63.2%, 54%, but if you look at what is written on top there, it's those below 35 years of age
leading
opposing cause for constitution. They must have influenced that, the 63 and 54. And you know, with all respect, our Kenyans at that 5 years and below have attendance of saying, no. Anything you say, we tatutaki. You know, that is where we start. Then slowly they get to. So I will not be worried by this both in NASA and Jubilee. It is a question of convincing and putting a proper case, a proper argument before them. And they listen with you.
All right. So we are torn in between. There's some who really want it next year, the referendum, and then there are some who really want it at the tail end of 2022 as well.
Perhaps I would say that we should avoid tying this thing with 2022. If we tie it with 2022, we will lose it.
All right. Let's hear from Kiminini as we wind up on it as well and move on to other subjects as well.
It's a very important topic. During the short recess we went to, Honorable Kioni says that there was public participation, which he has said there was actually. And you know, public participation was not meant to be just a word. You know, people to rush around and come, and committee comes and compiles and says that there was public participation. Public participation is a very serious exercise and was said to be so by the Constitution. I did not hear, for instance, that there was of any public participation about this date change. And it's a very important issue because it affects the term of the president under Article 255 of the Constitution. I didn't hear about it. I don't know who else heard about it. I do not know where the public participation took place, because if it did, then it would have opened the debate, and the Speaker of the National Assembly cannot possibly then be saying it's not a constitutional question.
Maybe Jeremiah can actually chime in and tell us where this particular...
No problem. Let me finish by finish and say that in Article 256,
yes,
it talks about it talks about 90 days. And the reason it's given 90 days for this, if the Speaker allowed 90 days for before the second reading after the first reading for public participation, then he must have recognized as a constitutional bill, because that's what Article 256 of the Constitution says. And we should then have had serious debate nationwide. You know, churches, interest groups, NGOs, everybody talking about it, and would have heard it, but I did not hear a single thing about a public participation. So if there was one, I do not think I'll be off the mark if I said it was a sham, meant just to satisfy the need of the article, to bring it back to National Assembly, and to Senate, because it has to go to both houses, and then tell us there was public participation. And for me, that would be a very good reason for anybody to go to court. First of all, the statement that by the Speaker that he doesn't know whether or not it's a constitutional amendment. Then for the fact that there was no public participation, those are reasons enough for anybody to go to court and quash it, because those are constitutional requirements.
Deval,
yes,
what the Senator is saying is, and the Ambassador at the same time, is very important. The public participation must have evidence. I know, for example, in the Senate, when we have a bill before the Senate and we want public participation, there's an advertisement in the newspapers,
yes,
which says this one, they will hear public hearings on this date here and so on. The first question to ask the Wamalwa team or the legal team is, were there any announcement in the newspapers announcing where in each county they were going to hold public participation? That's one. Secondly, when it comes to an issue like this, and which borders on the term of office of the president, then you must go deeper. You must consult the people in the counties. Were there any announcement in FM stations? For example, if you're going to hold public participation in Meru, There is a Kimeru FM station in Citizen, and the Citizen has got all of them all over the country. And then, of course, there should have been an announcement in all these stations,
yes.
Ramogi, whatnot, telling us, and actually also holding some discussions in these radio stations about what they're doing. It was very important. That would be evidence of public participation. Then, as Kembi says, notices in mosques, churches, and so on. In fact, the Catholic Church is very powerful. If you do communication to the Catholic Church and ask that communication to be read in all churches, it will be read in all churches the same day, the same time. So worshippers would know it nationally.
Yes.
Because this is an important thing. And finally, county assemblies. You see, we have a very concrete experience in the Lake Region Economic Bloc. We want the assemblies to pass a bill establishing the bloc. On Friday, we as governors of the 14 counties, we called all all county assemblies of the 14 counties to assemble in Kisumu so that we discuss with them this. That's evidence of public participation.
Yes.
You see, and then they told us too that they themselves have gone to the people and held public participation. If somebody then later asks, when we say that this thing has been proved in the assemblies, we shall say not only have the assemblies had public participation of the people, but even we as governors have had public participation in the assemblies. Now, so I really think that there must be evidence, as Wamalwa takes this thing back to Parliament, of real public participation, not just telling the Speaker that a select few from the committee, from the legal committee, visited Lodwar or visited Mombasa. That's not enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there any due diligence to make sure that actually the public here are aware that there is a forum for a public participation and they are seeking their views as well? Because even that one really went beyond my head as well. I've never seen it being announced on the papers as well, even these vernacular stations as well. So if they actually just took maybe first port of calls among some chosen counties, and we wonder also what was the merit of choosing these particular counties as well.
I think one of the...
What does it portend then if there are questions about public participation that was not really sufficient? Do we face a constitutional crisis? Because that is also a requirement from the Constitution.
Without doubt, I have no doubt in my mind, if it passes, somebody will be in court to seek guidance on this. I expect us to be charged on the issue of public participation.
Yes.
I am confirming to our viewers and my colleagues here that there was public participation. If they missed it, it's because they missed it.
No, the question is, they missed it. Was there any due diligence that was done to make sure the public is aware of public participation?
I would want to defend JRAC on that. I would want them to come and defend for themselves. Talk about it. I remember hearing them in Isiolo at one point. So I know there was public participation. As to whether it was adequate, it was properly done, that's another issue. But allow me to just...
but you see also the choice of counties also is a bit questionable. I was saying that we should change Isiolo, yeah, but what was the merit of choosing these counties?
I don't even think they chose the counties. I think they may have gone to all the 47 counties. But I agree with what the former Deputy Speaker is saying of the Senate, that it cannot be that you went to counties and the country did not quite hear of this thing. And for this reason, the ban. And this is why the issue of extending the term of president is clearly put at the 255. If I recall the debate, in this region and in Africa, we know presidents have the tendencies of staying on and then wanting to stay on a little bit longer. And the little bit longer continues until many of us are dead. And for that reason, it was clear in our mind that don't allow that to happen again in this country. One. Two, the issue of determining the election's date has been used even in this country as a secret weapon. Where a few people are aware of it and they keep playing around with it until the point where they think the opposition is not ready for an election, and you unleash it as a secret weapon and you come back to power. Again, for that reason, it was again being taken away from one or two individuals or a few. Three, there is the issue of that if you ask me as a member of parliament sitting now, I have things I'm doing in Daragwa, and if you ask me, I will say I need a little bit longer. Maybe 6 years would help me achieve my Then after 6 years, I may say another 4 months.
Yeah.
And it continues until you are there for 10 years. And for that reason, again, the mindset was that don't trust those who will benefit with the extension of the term, from determining.
Yes.
Remove them from determining the term of parliament. We, the voters, must always determine, must always be asked whether we should increase or retain it. That's why it was made a little bit laborious. Now, to try and look for a shortcut, this is really betraying all that argument that was there. And I am saying it may pass in parliament for the reasons that Kenyans did not want it passed by parliament alone. That we want to increase our term of parliament, our term of in office. But then we have the courts, and that's the joy, the beauty about this country. We will find this before a constitutional court. And I can tell you, I don't think that it requires a lot of legal arguments. That's why I'm saying it's plain English. It's plain English. I don't expect a lot of legal arguments about this issue. We expect it to be defeated in a constitutional court. In the speaker's mind, it's clear that it's a constitutional amendment. What he has said, it is upon the president to determine whether it is a referendum question or a referendum issue, or is an issue he just assents to. And that's where the debate is. But I am of the view that we need to really organize this thing in a better way. We have the Constitution Implementation Committee. If you ask me, this is an issue that should have gone there. It doesn't matter. It's still been handled by the Legal Affairs Committee. But the Constitution has a structure of how do we amend this Constitution. It's there in the Constitution. So even before you go out to form another committee, there are those committees in Parliament, and I want to specifically single out the CIOC, which I share, and we have a date with our court and others, so that we can see whether we can be able to come out with a package. But in doing this, my question is this: let's not mix things that will make those issues that have already been agreed upon to make it difficult. When I was called during the induction, when I was called in Mombasa by the leadership of Parliament and asked to say something, I said this, and I want to repeat it here. You will never amend this Constitution if you do not have a consensus from the two political sides. And that consensus, you really need to harness it very, very soberly and in a very clear manner. And we now have issues that seem to have some 60% approval rating. Pick on those ones.
Yes.
If it's not a 60%, don't waste your time.
All right. Kemi Gitura, as we finalize on it.
It's this issue of public participation. That's the one I really like to defend the Kenyan citizen on. Because Article 255 talks about extension of the term of the president.
Yes.
And so if the Wamalwa bill passes through Parliament and it is not a referendum question, then the term of the president is extended. And this is a very, very important issue. No, that would have to go to referendum.
But it has to be a referendum question.
It would have to be a referendum question. And that's a very important issue because, like I said, at the risk of repeating myself, that I did not hear about a public participation, and Professor Nyang did not hear about a public participation.
My apologies.
I sincerely wonder where it was. And we would have heard from all interest groups, particularly the churches and other interest groups. They would have been there telling us why it is possible to have it then or why not. And the debate would have been very rife and would be hearing about it all over the country. If they say there was a public participation, because I know there wasn't, I expect that there will be an action in court.
And yes.
Before they vote on it. Now, Jeremiah Kioni also made a very important statement about an amendment not affecting the people who are there. And that has been the norm all the time. If you want, for instance, to reduce the salaries of members of parliament, normally what you do, it comes during the next parliament. In fact, if you want to increase salaries also, it normally would come during the next parliament, these ones are not supposed to benefit. For me, this even strengthens my argument that we should be able to extract the questions that need to be asked, including my question about making Nairobi an extra county, not a normal county, which I had proposed already. But will it take effect in 2022 or 2027? That should be the question, because the people who are going to draft this bill can make it happen in the future, so that it does not appear to affect, to be targeted at a particular person. So I think these are important issues about that we need to look at. Then, of course, we must also remember that there is the building initiative team that was formed by the president when after the handshake of 9th of March. And I'm sure although they've been very quiet, they must be working on something. And I'm certain they'll come up with certain proposals, even to the amendment of the Constitution, the issues that we are talking about. And that is why I agree that maybe we should not do these things piecemeal. We should have a forum which is able to vet and to sift these issues, so at the end of the day, we have a question that satisfies the needs of the Kenyans. When the building initiative team opens its doors to the public, when CIOC tells us that they want to listen to memoranda, to have memoranda and to listen to us, then we'll be able to feed them with what we think, and as a committee, they'll be able to come out with what then would satisfy the need as of that time of the various issues that would have come up, including the effective date of the various proposals. Because what I'm sure about myself from where I'm sitting is that there's going to be a referendum. Is it going to be before 2022 or with the elections of 2022? I do not know. But there's going to be a referendum, because when a debate like this starts in a nation, the fact that we have 62.3% saying no in NASA and 54.9% saying no in Jubilee at the moment, we are talking about the moment. These are the ones who have taken cognizance of the debate. Maybe if there was a public participation in the Dr. Wamalwa bill, these figures would be different, because then people would have realized that there were questions coming up on whether or not a constitution will be amended, whether or not there's going to be a referendum. The fact that we have these figures at this moment, for me, is very encouraging. It tells me emphatically that there's going to be a referendum, that more Kenyans, this is going to be reversed within no time, and more Kenyans will be asking for a referendum, and they'll be also posing the questions that they think are relevant to the referendum. I personally have a few questions I'd like to pose. And I would like them to go to the committee, and the committee should then be able to tell me whether or not these are acceptable, whether it is a committee of parliament or whether it's a building initiatives team that my questions would go to. And I'm sure there are very many Kenyans out there who would like to say something about this constitution.
Right. Maybe to just get a confirmation from Anyang' Nyong'o, do you hear any public participation in this particular? Because this says he suspects that actually they've gone through all the 47 counties.
I didn't really.
You did?
Tell you the truth, I didn't. And I would have,
He's the governor.
I didn't even hear anybody talk about it in Kisumu County. And I think that
let's govern it.
And let me just say, adding to what my friend Kembia said, I would like to appeal to very important persons in this debate that let's stop name-calling and toxic language.
Yes.
It really mars the issues that we're discussing. Yeah. It really mars the issue that it reaches temperatures for no reason. Let's just say we want to have a referendum.
Yes.
Let's give the reasons why we would not like a referendum, or the reason why we want changes by other means. Look, I think the fact that we need changes, I think it's acceptable. For example, Kenyans are asking, what change can we make in our system of government to avoid being in debt to hurting development? You know, what kind of changes do you need in our system of governance to deal with corruption, bureaucratic corruption in particular? You see, and you can't just say that these things had nothing to do with the Constitution. They do, because they have something to do with how do you check executive power. And how can executive power be used to control behavior, especially in public offices? You see, so, and if you open it up to a debate, then these issues will be ventilated much more openly. But being so dogmatic or so, I would say, conclusive, that no, this must not happen. I think it's really taking the public for a ride, really. It's abusing the intelligence of the public. And I get very irked when I read those things. Sometimes I feel I should write something, I said, but then if you write, you give them legitimacy, or you extend the discussion for no reason. But I just like to appeal in general that now that the thing is a public domain, and even the Star has carried out a public opinion poll, and the opinion poll to me is premature, and it is held before the issues are ventilated. It doesn't really reflect much in reality in 2 or 3 weeks' time, but has been held nonetheless. It's part of the debate.
Right. And if
I wanted to say this, that the Deputy Speaker, Ambassador Kebi, has again brought in another important issue that if you ask many people, it's only a question of guiding them as to how else can it be done, is how do we manage the city of Nairobi?
Yeah.
Are we happy with the way we've seen it managed in the other parliament and in this term? And Kenyans will tell you, I think we need to manage the city differently. So these are issues that people have seems to have agreed. Yeah. But crucially, and let me own up to this, that we have had this debate in our committee last week, and we said any of this, and we with the permission of the Speaker, we may also invite him to our committee, so that we start getting these issues that have that general consensus. But crucially, we also agreed that we don't want to amend anything to put anything on the table that affects the holder. We need to do it into the future, so that we also get the support of those who are already in office, so that we are not sending them home without it. When you talk about popular initiative, which also we have engaged on, this Aukotis initiative, you certainly need the government to come on board, because how do you fund that referendum when it starts? Because after this collecting of signatures and the questions are there, you then need to put it to the people. You need to go to the 24, to all the 47 counties and get at least for 24 of them okaying on the bill. So the process is such that after you've gotten the 1 million signatures, that's the easier part. There is the other difficult part that now causing the IEBC, they want money to do all these things, and without the government being on board in the popular initiative, it still can come to, without a team funding it, you still can lose it. And what I'm saying is this, you need people on board. You need this whole debate in a very structured manner. And we need to make sure that people also don't get fatigued before we move on. So I think it is crucial that we move on quickly, and I want to say we'll try and give the leadership that we can from our committee. It doesn't mean that is the only committee that can deal with this. If you ask me, Wamalwa has gotten what he wanted from this. We are now discussing him this morning. He wants to be the governor of Trans Nzoia. I support him in that endeavor. So and he's achieved it.
This is sort of a posturing.
He's achieved it, and I admire him for it, and we have to give it to him. But as to whether it helps us move forward, it is helping us debate, but it doesn't. It can easily delay what we want to do as a country.
Ambassador Kemi Gitura says, it seems, yes, this is a reality.
Let me just add one thing.
Yes.
That one of the other reasons why we are saying, put the question together with that when we are voting 2022, put the question then. Then you don't need to call in 20 billion shillings. Because I will be going to vote from the readers. Yeah. And I'll also be saying yes to this question and divorce it from the 2022 presidential election. That would derail anything that we want to do. But if we are able to combine, and I think it's been done in other countries, every other time when let's look of ways of also saving this amount of money, and also the time that we need to spend doing this. If we can go vote during the 2022 elections and also determine what kind of amendments you want the constitution for the future, I think that way we may just...
So certainly you're saying your opinion is that we should have it in 2022.
And we are going to put something as a committee for 2022 and see what happens.
All right. So we have, Ambassador, you're saying that this is a reality that is with us. But yet we are facing another problem with IEBC as currently constituted. If you may just look at even the editorial cartoon today in the Daily Nation, we had the sacking of the CEO now by Ezra by Chebukati, the chair, and this is just the editorial cartoon, but it's just depicting the current situation of IEBC. Do you think in any way they are ready even to handle as it is right now, given maybe it should be next year, some are suggesting, to actually hold a referendum as currently constituted with 3 commissioners, no CEO,
well,
is only the chair?
The Parliament has a duty here because they must show leadership. Yeah, Parliament needs to show leadership on this issue because, for me, it's not a question of whether IEBC is ready or not. It's a question of, is there going to be or is there not going to be a referendum, and who is going to do it? We've moved very far because in the earlier elections, there was somebody called Director of Elections, one person.
Montgomery.
Montgomery was there for many years, based at Sharia House. You may not know this, Debao. But there was a man called Montgomery, Director of Elections, and was running these elections alone in those days. Okay, we were much smaller economy, much smaller population, but that's the truth. So the question for me is not whether or not Chebukati and his team are ready. The question is, do Kenyans want a referendum or not? Is Parliament ready to show leadership on the issue of IEBC or not? Because there is a problem of partisanship and personal interests. That is why you are seeing all these things, with all this procrastination. You find that nobody wants to take an initiative because they are personal interest in these issues. But it is the Kenyan citizen who is going to decide whether or not there will be a referendum, not anybody else. Because when the movement starts, you can't stop it. And whether it's by a Kuru or court or by whoever else, it's going to be done. I would like CIOC, is it CIOC?
Yes.
Or Parliament, to take leadership on these issues, on this issue, because it's the committee that has the duty to lead on these matters. When I proposed that Nairobi should be an extra county, for instance, and I published a bill in 2016, and it went through the first reading in Senate, it abated by reason that we now went to another Senate, the current one. But that doesn't mean that that bill isn't there. And if we are going to have a referendum, and we have to decide the fate of Nairobi, not to affect the current governor and his government, but for future ones to come, post-2022, then I think the time is now for CIOC to take an interest in all these matters that come up, including the Wamalwa bill, and then bring them together, collate them, so that they start showing whether or not these things are required. Then they'll call me to defend my bill the way I defended it before Senate, before it went to the first reading, so that they're able to see whether there is reason or not. And I'm saying there are many, many Kenyans who have an interest and who have something to say about the future of this country through the Constitution. So I think that the IEBC must put its act right. I think we must fill in the positions that have been left vacant in the IEBC.
Yes.
How are we going to do it? Let Parliament tell us. That's why they're elected. That's why they are there. They must debate these issues. And they cannot continue to watch as Chebukati is standing with only 2 commissioners and the others are not there. Then they think it's a circus. They resign. They tell us they have resigned, and they come back and say they want back their offices. We cannot continue taking Kenyans for granted like this. I mean, we must have a system that works. The ones who resigned, let them go. But let the positions be filled, because there is a provision of how this should be done, and should be done as soon as possible, because we don't want to have a crisis going forward to the next elections in 2022. Because whether or not there is going to be a referendum, we have elections in 2022 by law in August, second Tuesday of August. 2022, we are going to have elections. Is it going to be done by Chebukati and the 2 commissioners at the moment? I do not know. But we must be told now and in good time, not in 2021, when then we could have a crisis and then we start hearing things that we don't want to hear about the elections, the forthcoming elections.
Right.
So there's a lot of work to be done, Debao. And on the issue of the referendum, my suggestion would be, let this debate continue.
Thank you.
Let it rage. Let Kenyans decide what it is that they want.
Yeah, and in a moment also, just make it very crystal for our viewers. When you're talking about an extra county, what do you really mean? For them, maybe they understand we have 47 counties, and Nairobi is inclusive of that 47 counties. We'll come to you on that.
You want me to finish it now?
No. Let's just,
okay.
so that we don't derail the
I
debate
just
a bit.
want to emphasize something that Ambassador Kembi Gitura has said, that one, the number of commissioners is not a problem. Montgomery ran the elections as a one-man, but there was an institution which he was working with in that office. That institution is composed of civil servants, technocrats who do these things. Recently, Chebukati and his team ran an election in Migori.
Yes.
Very successful. And they have won all other by-elections in the wards and so on. So the number that really matter, what is important is that there's an institution, a credible institution that can run the elections. Secondly, the issue of the chief executive doesn't matter either. You can recruit a chief executive competent with clear terms of service anytime, and you run those elections. Now, what is important, however, if you look at the history of the IEBC from 2007 up to now, you'll find that the reason why the IEBC doesn't perform is not because the people in there are inherently wicked, but they are influenced by forces from outside the IEBC which make them wicked. Mm-hmm. Yes, the people who are interested in the outcome of elections, mm-hmm, compel them to raise money through funny or tenders. You know, something is going to cost the Kenyan government maybe 500 million shillings. Some forces come in and say, no, make it 1 billion, 100 million will be yours, 200 million will be ours, and so, no, the Kenyan thing. So that the IEBC becomes a den of thieves. It becomes a transit point for people to get money for elections, you see. And this is what compromises IEBC. When individuals within the IEBC, you could see the fight they were having in boardrooms and so on, and what now the auditor reveals was happening, and Chiluba, who is the CEO, is being pinned down for those things, you see. If the IEBC, like Matumari ran it those days, becomes an independent, clean, professional organization that does its work, organizing elections and nothing more, there would be no problem. So I think what we really need is, even if we can use these three, now that they be turned away from being Saul into Paul, if they're really now Paul, I don't mind, and they say, look, we can run this thing well, and politicians will keep away from pressurizing them and using them, they will deliver. Let's be quite clear about it. They will deliver. But the IEBC, as it works, must also be accountable to somebody.
Yes.
It cannot just work alone. There must be, and we proposed it in the last parliament, we proposed that there should be a committee or something to which the IEBC reports be accountable to. But so long as they sit in that, what is it called? What towers? Anniversary towers. And they make funny phone calls at funny hours of the night, and they meet in hotels and they exchange notes about how they're going to issue a tender for the next, this thing that you use for voting. We will have a mess. So if we wait to find 2022 and go the same way we did in the last election and the previous election, we'll not get anything different. And that's one of the reasons why I think when we think of amendment of the Constitution, we should also think of, is there a proper provision to establish an IEBC which is truly independent in this Constitution? Are there mechanisms we can put in place that will make an IEBC function like Montgomery did, or function like Samuel Kivuitu did before the disaster of 2007?
Before he knew where the results were coming.
Yeah.
On IEBC, yes. I agree with what my colleagues have said. Let me say what we have done, take the opportunity to say what we've done as a committee. One is that we have already done a bill that is had gone through budget. You know,
what
every time, just a minute, every time you do a bill in Parliament, it must go through the budget office so that they determine whether it's a money bill or not.
Yes.
And the bill that we did as members, as a committee, CIOC, was to propose that we have 5 commissioners in IEBC and a quorum of 3. What it means is that the 3, as they are, have they will continue functioning. They will be able to do the boundaries, they will be able to run the 2022 elections. But we have provided for another 2 to be appointed. And because we will start haggling on how do we appoint the 2, as we haggle on how we get the other 2 on board, the country is not a standstill. The thinking that we can just do away with IEBC and start afresh is really misplaced. You really want to get the country to a spin. So we have a bill that we did as members in consultation with IEBC and other people. We have a bill that we did, and we have brought the quorum of IEBC to 3, and the number required in the commission to 5, and that allows them to function as it are, not just for purposes of allowing them to function, but again, to agree that you do not need 9 for it to be credible. In other countries, we know elections are even bigger democracies by even people who are fewer than what we have today. On I think, let me also say about this bill that has been mentioned by the former Deputy Speaker, that again, we've taken on a bill that was done by Professor Nyang'yon, and it went through Senate, but collapsed or lapsed when it came to the National Assembly on fundraising. And again, it's going out again for publication so that we can try and move it fast before the lapse of Parliament, because it's a very useful piece of legislation that had been proposed. We will take on, with permission of Kebi, we will want to take the bill also, and we will want to hear from him so that we also don't lose that crucial initiative. How cities are run across the world is not the way we are doing the case of Nairobi. And I can recall again the debate we had in the version of Nairobi. It's only that we could not quite crystallize our minds on how do we want to run the cities. And there was some little bit of who has the advantage in terms of politics, who is supposed to, who is likely to, which side is likely to benefit from this if it's made as a county. Out of the 47, does that increase the number of counties that are about to be on my side, on the other side? That debate was at the back of our minds. Now, not useful anymore, but because you can see that the city needs to be run differently. So it is certainly something that we'll be wanting to take on. When we were doing all these commissions, we were also being guided by issue of regional balancing. We've not quite gone over it, but it is helping. Now we can look at regional balancing differently from the way we were looking at it some 80 years ago. So we should be able to do a better job. And finally, as you move, there is the issue of is it the bridging of bridges or building of bridges committee? A good initiative, but left alone, we can end up being a talking shop, because they cannot amend the constitution as they are. It needs to go through the structure as provided for in the constitution. So the harnessing of all these initiatives is crucial, and I think that's what we have to do as members of CIOC.
Right, thank you. Ambassador KB, maybe as you're winding up, you can actually clarify on the, having an extra county, which is Nairobi. What do you really,
My proposal, and I talked about it last time I was here, was I published a bill in the last Parliament, and the purpose of that bill was to make Nairobi an extra county. I did not then believe, neither do I now believe, that Nairobi should be run as a county with a governor. I believe that Nairobi should take from what we have, for instance, in Washington DC, what we have in Canberra in Australia, what we have in Abuja in Nigeria, and some South American countries. I want Nairobi to be under the national government, so that we have, it doesn't matter, so that the government of the day is able, because Nairobi is so important. Nairobi gives 60% GDP of this country. Nairobi is the country, is the heart of our nation. That's where every Kenyan is. That is where all the national government offices are. That is where the nation is run from, is the heartbeat of the nation. So in my view, Nairobi should be a county that is not under the whims of a governor who may have no idea about how to run an economy, and a county as important as Nairobi, run it down. And this is where we have international conferences. This is where you have UNEP, the only UNEP offices in this region, in the whole world.
Thank you.
This is where we have a government. That's why I said about that, in my view, Nairobi should be run very different from what it is done now. And the only way to do it is to run it as an extra county, as I proposed in my bill.
Right, I think we shall pick up on that also maybe on the next program. But I just want to give Anyang' Nyong'o also your closing remarks.
My closing remarks, I support Kembe. And if you run Nairobi like Washington, for example, it would have a mayor, because the people must have somebody who lead them, who they elect. But the membership of the team the mayor works with would be different from what you have today, like the county assembly. It would be a team of people composed, elected in such a way, chosen in such a way that it reflects the fact that this is a capital of the nation, run by a mayor, in which the national government must have, to a large extent, some say.
Thank you, Professor.
Abuja, I could be wrong, but I think Abuja is run in such a way that the county, when the president wins the elections, he appoints the governor, who is actually like a member of the cabinet, to run the city of Abuja. So it is, as the president is running for his campaigns, he knows that he has another extra slot, because it is managed by the government, not the county assembly.
Thank you.
And I think that may be also useful in as we continue debating this issue.
Thank
but
you.
finally, I think for this, on behalf of our colleagues, we want to say congratulations to Harambee Stars. They've done us proud as a country, and it was a great game. We watched it, and looks like we've come of age. I hope the issues of Leo don't fight their way into Harambee Stars. And we want to encourage those who are dealing with the issues of Leo to continue this anti-corruption purge.
Thank you.
It's also very important.
And congratulations to Chila Yako
Yes, Achilo Yako.
Achilo Yako, yes.
for joining the Senate.
Thank you.